Hey everybody, and welcome to the next episode of Taking Flight. It's Megan Holly. Hello. How are you doing today? Hopefully you're feeling pretty productive because that's what we're talking about today. Productivity, a few hacks that I use personally that have helped my kind of unfocused mind. This creative brain of mine, sometimes it wants to be all over the place. I don't know about you, but it can be one of those things I have to really keep in check. So I thought, why not bring an episode onto the podcast about some of the things that I use on a daily basis that really help me to stay focused, especially in the seasons when I'm feeling, like there is just a lot going on. And I know we all feel that way. Raise your hand if you've ever just felt like, oh my gosh, if I have to think about one more thing, if I have to accomplish one more thing, if I have to say yes to another to-do, I'm going to explode. Raising my hand high because, yes, in our modern society, it's just one of those things where it's a no-brainer that we are going to come up against that. It just is. But there's a couple things that we need to keep in mind, right? That can help us personally. And of course, these are just suggestions and things. And here's a sneak peek of one of them. A lot of you who follow me on socials, you've probably seen these in my stories before, but we need to take the power back because society and social media and the go is not going to go away. In fact, in my mind, it's only just going to kind of just stay at this race car like just fast pace all the time. And as we move into technology continuously getting more easy and the dings on our phones just going off and our brains wanting to do it all, we have got to take the power back. There is just no ifs, ands, or buts about it. And so for me, recently, the last few years, as a business owner, I wear many hats. I wear, just so many hats. And then you add in being a wife and a sister and a friend and an aunt and all of the things that we all just accumulate in the best way possible. But with all this accumulation of the beautiful people and things and opportunities that we have, it can feel really just a lot. And so when we take our power back, which is what I've been doing in the last few years, and just figuring out what works for me, why do I feel like this? How do I know when enough is enough? Where do I prioritize and just figure out what is best for me? Well, that's an ongoing kind of conversation, to be honest. There is just no like, hey, I've got it and I'm set. It's not the case. But there are so many ways and things in our daily routine and our lives that we can bring in. And so when it comes from the place and space of kind of productivity, let's start there. There's tools, there's resources, there's support. And guess what? We can also ask for help. I know the H word. It's kind of like, oh, that feels like I'm not doing good if I have to ask for help. Or, oh no, I'm a go-getter. I can do all this. I got it. I don't need any support. But the reality is we all need support. And so when we think about productivity and we think about attention spans and focus and just feelings of overwhelm that can come with kind of going down these laundry lists of life, really, it just feels a lot. And so for me, the top things that have helped me really kind of shine and showcase my strengths within overwhelm and excessive just lifestyle that we kind of have accumulated over time is just really important to me. And so one thing is really prioritizing my time. And so these little guys here are timer cubes because as an eternal optimist, as a go-getter, as somebody who just really struggles with ADHD and my focus at times, I have a lot of time blindness. So sometimes I think I've spent 10 minutes on something and it's been 2 hours. And I'm going, where did the day go? What is happening? And so timer cubes have been super helpful, as well as using alarms on my phone and other means of kind of timing. That has been, for me, a game changer. Now, do I always utilize it perfectly? Do I always have them at my beck and call? No. But what it does do is kind of help me kind of strategize more and become a little less time blind because I'm like, oh, that was what 30 minutes really feels like. That's what I can realistically get done in 30 minutes. And for me, the visual side of these is also what's kind of important, because I'm kind of, well, on the bottom here, when it's on, you can see the countdown. Sometimes I like to have that and sometimes I don't. Sometimes I just want to focus. But visual kind of cues super help. And I've seen so many out there. There's digital ones you can put on the wall so that you can kind of keep an eye when you're on your computer or working on a project or, with a client. Those times are really helpful to be able to kind of, okay, I've got 15 minutes left. I've got to wrap up. And it also helps us to prioritize kind of the way we structure our day. So I time block a lot. So another kind of segment or section of this is time blocking, where my brain works best personally when I kind of am doing like things. And so when I'm editing, for instance, sometimes my brain wants to go, oh, but wait, hold on, I should go check my email randomly. Even if it's not anything urgent, even if I don't even know if there's a new email, but I just feel like all of a sudden I need to go do that. Or, oh man, I just had this idea for something for my content. Let me go jot that note down or do something to create that content. When right now, what my main focus was is editing. And so what happens when I time block and kind of go, okay, here you go, Megan, here is your time block. You're going to spend this much time editing for the next, let's just say 2 hours for this example. And then you're going to take a little brain break. And then after that, you're going to go into kind of miscellaneous, meaning kind of checking emails and kind of back end things of just checking on notifications, all those things. And so what happens then, right, when we kind of give our brains this allotment, at least for me, is like, oh, okay, it sounds so silly. Oh my gosh, like it's so mind blowing. But to my brain, sometimes it is of like, okay, all right, girl. Yeah, you know that you've got 3 different types of work to do today, but you're going to get to all of them. So don't panic. Don't stress out thinking you have to go and do all of them at the same time, because our brains are slowly beginning to be trained to feel like we should be doing all the things. And a lot of us are naturally good at multitasking, and there's nothing wrong with multitasking until it becomes kind of the mode of operation that kind of implodes us, and we're doing it to kind of our detriment, right? And so what timing and alarms do for my brain is kind of go, okay, we've got these pockets of time. We're going to do it. We're going to get to it. And it makes me feel good that I've kind of given notice, right? It's like almost like giving yourself the sneak peek of the day, and I just know that it's all gonna kind of move. Now there are days when I kind of shape shift or I move stuff around, but I do it in a kind of a very intentional way of going, you know what, I'm feeling more creative in this span or just area today, so I'm going to move this up a little bit to kind of capitalize on that, and then I'll do the other stuff after. And once you do it more and more, you kind of know your bandwidth, you see the potential in how time blocks or your energy or your creativity work. And so if you are somebody who is feeling like, yeah, I try to just do so much in one day and the day gets away from me, try time blocking, try timing and alarms. Alarms come into play all the time for me because it lets me not worry about forgetting something. So say I have something kind of midday at 3 p.m. and I'm worried in the back of my mind, like, oh my gosh, what if I just go into like work mode and forget about it? So I'll put an alarm that goes off at 2:30, for instance. And I know my brain can now just close off that worry, close off that stress, because I know that I'm going to have something that helps me do that and do it well. And so as simple as it sounds, and maybe you already do something similar or, in the same vein, which I hope, because, right, we all need to be kind of figuring out all of these little areas and spaces that work for us. If you do have some things that really work for you, let me know in the comments. I would love to hear. I'm always trying to grab more things that kind of can really help me stay focused and excited and creative and all the things. So do let me know. Or if you kind of been on autopilot with some of your systems, refresh a little bit. See if they're working the same way they were in the beginning. See if they can't, kind of continue being helpful in maybe a new way, a fresh existence, all that good stuff. The next thing is just prioritizing, right? So many times our brains want to kind of boom, 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 right? That executive functioning goes in just kind of disarray and it can't quite figure out what's the most important thing to do. At least my brain, there's times when all of a sudden, I'm like, maybe I should vacuum the whole house. The default of, or I should say, the hard part of having a home office is that sometimes you're like, oh, I need to go do that. And then all of a sudden, not top priority, not something that needs to get done is happening. And I'm going, this is not a good use of my time. And so when we can brain dump, so that's my next little thing that really helps me do, brain dump. So what I do in brain dumps, I do them in a couple different ways, in a couple different fashions. But one thing a brain dump does for me is just kind of like, what are my priorities over the next week? So for me, I kind of expand it out for more than the day, at least in most of my brain dumps. And so then I know, hey, if cleaning the house is something that needs to happen soon, okay, when is that going to be a priority? And when is it going to make the most sense for me? Instead of all of a sudden having this just moment where I'm trying to avoid that phone call or that email, and now I'm going to go clean the house. It doesn't make any sense, right? Because then we're just going to keep kind of the stress of that email or phone call just like sitting there and just floating in our brains and feeling like this little tiny devil in our brains that just keeps like, hey, don't forget you still have to do that though. Don't forget you have to do that. And to me, when I can brain dump, prioritize, and really try to understand the way that I might need to work differently when my brain wants to kind of just go in disarray, it really helps me. And then the other thing, I have slept so much better in the last few years. I've always had kind of an ongoing just ebb and flow with insomnia and having a hard time falling asleep and all the things. And over the last couple of years, brain dumps have helped me because what they do is allow me to get something on paper, or if I email myself or voice note myself or whatever it is. For me, a lot of times it's paper. Paper and pen or pencil just always feels really good. I have a mechanical pencil that I'm obsessed with lately, and it just feels like the feeling of it on the paper is mwah. But this helps me to go, okay, these creative ideas that I've been worried about forgetting, these little, don't forget thoughts, they all go down every night as I'm kind of winding down for my day. I do this and I take a little moment, brain dump on the piece of paper and get it all out. And or send myself a few emails, reminders, whatever it is, that these things are now out of my brain, because then I can go into relax mode, not worrying about, am I going to forget that? Or wait, what was I supposed to do 3 days from now? And if you do it every day, you know, you kind of get ahead of the game, right? Because you're like thinking more just big, more grand, more worldly about the snapshot of your days, of your life, of all the things that you are wearing hats for. And so it's helped me be able to sleep better, because I used to be the person that was like, wait, did I do that? Should I do that? Wait, that's a good idea. And it's so, if that happens to you, and I know a lot of you are creatives, and in that world where your brain is just always creating, that happens to you, you know, it is just very frustrating, because on one hand, you're excited about this thing that just came to you. And on the other hand, you're like, oh my gosh, if I could just get some sleep, that would be really wonderful. And when we sleep better, then we can also take action on the ideas that we have 100,000% better too. That's a real true statistic. I'm just kidding. It is not. But, right? We can do things so much better when we are rested, when we are relaxed, when we've given our brains a moment to just be, which is so hard. So hard. And on that note, the last thing that helps me stay focused, and I talk about this all the time, but I will never not talk about it because it is so important, and that is movement. Movement makes me fluid. It makes me be able to speak more clearly. It makes me be able to sit down and do the dang thing. So for me, as you know, if you've been around for a while, I've been back in dance classes. I've been more intentional about getting my body moving. And the more that I do it, the more intentional I get, the more creative I get with it, the better I feel. And on the days when I need it the most is when it's just like, oh, see, it's so simple. We don't have to do anything fancy. We don't have to do anything fancy to get focus in our bodies and our brains. Movement gets that kind of stagnant energy out. It gets that flustery, blustery mind kind of to refocus and reignite. And it's just good for us. I mean, that's not rocket science. Nothing here is in the taking flight world. But movement has been a humongous game changer for me, because I can feel and I can sense when all the thoughts and ideas and things are swirling around in my brain, and they either make no sense, or they're overwhelming, or they're just not firing in a way that's actually productive, not just busy. And then when I move my body, stuff starts to kind of like recalibrate. I'm like, oh my gosh, I can think more clearly. Oh, when I go work on this project, or I go edit for a client, or I go speak to someone, or on a stage, or wherever, wow, it's a little more clear. I feel a little more concise. And if we can incorporate this into the small pockets of our lives, not even just the grand gesture of working out, right? I'm not talking about that, although that is good, right? Getting in movement daily, or at least a few times a week that it's just intentional and more in that vein, is wonderful. But what I'm talking about is just these intentional movements that help us to kind of dust it all off and just get back in the lane, right? We've been swerving for a little bit here, gets us back in the lane. And so those are the things for me, right? Time blocking, prioritizing, brain dumps, and movement that have really started to shapeshift me into a person who is no longer chronically late, is much more planned out and thoughtful when it comes to the way I schedule myself, to someone who feels a little bit more confident in my own skin because I'm able to have these things that help me do just that. And so I hope that this episode gives you a little something to chew on, or helps enhance what you're already doing. And like I said before, I would love to hear anything that helps you stay more focused, feel more grounded, and just feel like you have kind of a sense of, I don't like the word control, but we're going to use it here. The sense of kind of control in where you are going in your daily, everyday tasks and life, and the things that we get to do. And so let me know. I would love to hear. And hopefully you go on and have like one of the most productive days after listening to this, and just kind of get the things that are feeling good, that are a priority. Stay focused, my friend, and get them done. And give yourself a little something after you check something off that list. Give yourself a little bit of relaxation. Let that mind relax. You deserve it. I mean it.